This is Akashvani. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on the evolving situation in the Israel Hamas War, heralding peace in the region. The participants are Anil Kumar Trigunayat, former diplomat, and Manas Pratim Bhuiya, journalist.
Ambassador Triganat, after nearly 7 weeks of fighting between Hamas and Israeli forces, following Hamas's unprecedented attacks on Israeli cities on October 7, a Qatari brokered 4-day pause in fighting came into effect in the Gaza Strip on Friday. As per all indications, the truce is holding so far. An initial group of 24 hostages has been released already by Hamas as part of the truce. According to Qatari Foreign Ministry, the released hostages include 13 Israelis, 10 Thai citizens, and 1 Filipino national. The Israeli prison authorities say 39 Palestinian women and children were released from 3 prisons as part of the peace agreement. The Israeli authorities say 14 hostages held by Hamas will be released on Saturday. As a result of the truce, a significant number of trucks carrying fuel, food, and medical supplies entered Gaza on Friday. What is your assessment of the overall situation in Gaza Strip?
As you know that this October 7th, these were the sort of a black day for both Palestine and Israel. The reason is that the Hamas, which launched these terror attacks and nearly killed about 1,400 people and took about 245 hostages. And now they say that in the Israeli attacks, that about 60 of them have been killed. From the very beginning, Qatar has been one country which has been a go-to country. The reason is that the political leadership of Hamas is based there. And with the US help, the CIA director and the Hamas political leadership, Qatari leadership, Prime Minister there himself, as well as the Mossad director, they have been involved in working out these details. And while the war has been continuing and we have seen that the situation in Gaza has become totally untenable, the civilian strife has increased, more than 14,000 people have been killed. So this response and retribution, this kind will continue to have a major problem for everyone. But for the time being, after 50 days, we see some respite and a 4 days ceasefire or truce, as they say, temporary truce has been agreed, during which some exchanges, as you also mentioned, have taken place. It is agreed that 50 Israeli women and children will be released during these 4 days, and about 150 Palestinian women and children who have been in Israeli jails, and most of them not even charged, will be released, and they have been released and they are meeting. So this is a bit of a welcome change amidst the tremendous distraught state of affairs which is existing. But I feel that it is very, very important, and as Prime Minister Modi has been from day one talking about it, that there should be a two-state solution, that we must. At the G20 also a 7-point program has been worked out by our leaders only 2 days ago. And it is important that this problem, which is more than 100 years old, but minimum 75 years old since 1948, must be addressed upfront, and a two-state solution must be worked out, or some solution must be worked out which should be acceptable to both the sides. And we have seen that this is divided, the Arab world on one side and Israel and the other Western countries on the other. And if that continues, there we are going to have major problems. We were happy to see the rapprochement in the region, West Asian region, between Saudi Arabia and Iran and various countries of the Arab world through Abraham Accords with Israel, which would have been a very good signal. We have seen that IMEC, India, Europe, Middle East corridor, economic corridor, was signed just in September. And all these very good initiatives, which are for good of the region, good for the people, have now been put on hold. So therefore, it is important that the world leaders, especially the United States, must work together, because this is the only country that has greatest influence and is the biggest supporter of Israel. And it is important that they, as soon as, firstly, this ceasefire must be extended as far as possible, the war must end. And secondly, immediately after that, there should be some kind of a dialogue which should lead to peace, through peace and tranquility, at least among the people. Because I can tell you that if the Palestinians are not secure, Israelis are also not secure. And this we have seen in these repeated wars that are taking place to the detriment of all the ordinary civilians on both sides.
Abhijit Trigana, you briefly mentioned about it, but I'd like to have a detailed answer from you about India calling on both the sides to eschew violence, de-escalate the situation, and create conditions for an early resumption of direct peace negotiation towards a two-state solution to the Palestinian issue. So do you think major powers, including US, UK, Germany, France, the European Union, who are the major stakeholders in the region, should now work towards permanent peace in Gaza that should include starting of negotiations for a two-state solution as suggested by Prime Minister Narendra Modi?
Yes, I think that there is no option at all. They have to work. They have failed the Palestinians. They have failed the Israelis because there is no peace there. And so even if Israel has developed into a major power, but at the same time, what we are seeing is that the Palestinian issue remains and confronts them on a daily basis. Now, we have to rise above petty geopolitics. These countries, especially the quartet countries, which was like the USA, Russia, and the EU and the United Nations, need to find out some way. And the countries like India, which stand for dialogue and peace and diplomacy, must be on board and must be able to take initiatives because they are trusted. India is the only country, in my view, today, which is trusted by both sides for arriving at some kind of a solution. Prime Minister Modi has tremendously good relations with both President Abbas as well as with Prime Minister Netanyahu and many other leaders in the Arab world. And therefore, there is no other solution. This is the only solution which should be acceptable to both sides so that they can live side by side in peace as their sovereign state. And then not be achieved now, I hope, of this very catastrophic conflict, at least some good outcome will be able to come. And that we have seen that at this virtual G20 summit, Prime Minister Modi, nearly more than half of his speech was pertaining to West Asia crisis. Because West Asia is the most important region from India's security point of view, whether it is energy security, economic security, maritime security, or diaspora security. So it is very, very important for us also. So we are invested in this region. This is unlike any other region for us. So we have to take initiatives. We need to be there. And Prime Minister has done himself talk to nearly every leader. He has, in this G20 virtual summit, the 7-point consensus has been achieved. And hopefully this will be taken into major direction whereby we will see some kind of a format for a two-state solution. Because if we don't do it now, it will be too late and we'll see the repeat of this once again.
Mr. Trigana, the 4-day truce has also been seen as an opportunity to ramp up humanitarian aid to people of Gaza. As per reports, nearly 98 trucks have already entered Gaza through the Rafah border crossing on Friday, carrying relief supplies to ease the humanitarian crisis there. And a lot of around 110 aid trucks are on the way. How do you see the humanitarian cost of the crisis?
Well, as I said earlier, that nearly 14,000, more than that, people have been killed in this war from October 7th onwards. And there are no supplies available. Gaza has been pulverized. And there is a constant campaign, aerial campaign that has been going on there. Now there is a ground invasion also. So this truce that has happened for 4 days with the intervention of Qatar is an important achievement. And I hope that not only that all the hostages will be able to come back home through the discussions, but also that there will be the relief supplies will continue to be provided to all the people who deserve it immediately, who need it very quickly, whether it is medicines, whether it is food, whether it is fuel, whether water. I mean, they had a problem. As such, Gaza has been mostly under the siege, both sides, from Egyptian side as well as from Israeli side. They have been under control all along. So this is now, they need all the assistance. Normally, they get about 400 trucks a day in normal times, which is allowed. But now, as you have also mentioned, there are about 200 or trucks will come. But let me tell you that very beginning, India had started providing the assistance like many other countries. But when we said it, that humanitarian relief supplies must go. So India has already provided about 70 tons of relief supplies and is ready to do more. Prime Minister has said during the speech at the G20 virtual summit and in his bilateral interactions with all the major leaders of the world as well as of the region. How do we move forward is the big question. Because see, the thing is, all this can be a temporary thing. So international community, the United Nations, United States, they have to come up. The big powers need to take up the cudgel and prevail upon both the Israeli leadership as well as the Palestinian leadership to come to terms. And until and unless this is done, I doubt very much that all these things and reconstruction of Gaza will begin and this, that, and once again be pounded. Those kind of situation will not go until and unless the root cause of this problem is sorted out.
Ambassador Triganat, we have seen how India's relations has broadened and strengthened in the last few years, particularly with countries like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait. We have seen a major upswing in our relations with these countries in the Gulf. And considering India's good relations relations with major powers like the US, UK, Germany, France, European Union. Do you think India is better positioned to play a much larger role in ensuring peace and stability in the Middle East?
Middle East or West Asia is the most important region for us. We are dependent on them for our energy security. We get about 70-80% from there. We have a lot of investments. We have 9 million Indian diaspora there, which is sending about 40-50 billion dollars of foreign exchange to India, remittances, the maritime routes. So from India's point of view, it is extremely important that the region remains stable and there is security there. Because this war, at least this time, had all the parameters whereby it could have expanded in the region. Fortunately, because of various leaders, including India, kept talking about it that this has been contained. It's not over as yet. So anything could happen at any time. But for the time being, it looks that the things have been slowed down a little bit. So it is very important that this remains. Now, if this is so important a region, it is also imperative that India has to play a role. Why it has to play a role is for their own national interest. And secondly, because this region, all the countries in the region, as you said, I personally feel that this current government's policies, the West Asia policy has been one of the most successful. And we have today strategic partnership, relationship with everybody. Prime Minister Modi was actually honored by highest award by many of these countries. It has never happened before.
Mr. Trigana, the Hamas-Israel conflict took place when, in fact, the world was increasingly concerned over the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And the Middle East region is very, very important for global economic growth because it supplies energy to almost all the parts of the world. Do you think the world powers will have to do something to stabilize the situation, and they will do something to stabilize the situation? Because any escalation further would impact economically, in fact, various countries, including India, because India also has been a major supplier of India depends on energy on the Middle East. So how do you see the economic component of the entire conflict?
You know, as a result of the three, I would now say three black swan events. The first one was pandemic, the second is the Russia-Ukraine war, and third is the Israel-Hamas war. All three have impacted the global economic conditions in a very severe way. We are seeing that there have been weaponization of food, fertilizers, oil, fuel, as well as that of the financial instruments, which is having a tremendous impact on the region, on the global economy. Already we saw the reports by IMF which says that the overall global growth will go down to 3% from 3.5% that was projected, and perhaps even more. So therefore it is necessary that this region is stabilized, and the other wars. Ukraine, Russian president was at the G20 recently talked about that this war should come to an end. Means Russia-Ukraine war. So every war should come to an end. It is important. Even then the wars happen. We all know the disastrous consequences of these wars. But the countries like India, which believe in that this is not an era of war, as Prime Minister Modi had told President Putin earlier, and I'm sure he has been telling even Netanyahu that in person, that he has to be careful about the civilian casualties. International humanitarian law must be respected. So while we are condemning terrorism, so at the same time, these are very important issues and very critical issues for the growth of the global economy, and they will have a terrible impact on it. So therefore, I think the world needs to, especially the big powers who are indulging in this geopolitics, geoeconomics, and contestations of all kinds everywhere, should work to stop it. We are seeing now that China tried to meet with these countries from the region, the Arab world. Russians also are trying to do something. They know them. Americans are now a bit under pressure domestically also to help. So this, I think, is a good occasion where they need to see that these wars come to an end. And I think that if the international community is serious about the peace, because there are certain countries who tend to benefit out of the wars. So there they also have some other kind of a lobbies. So I think that we need to see it, and no country can be safe with the wars going around it. It will impact today, everything impacts internationally, including on India.
Mr. Trigana, thank you so very much for a detailed perspective on the conflict in West Asia, as well as the current four-day pause in the fighting between Israel and Hamas. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr.
You were listening to a discussion on the evolving situation in the Israel Hamas war, heralding peace in the region. The participants were Anil Kumar Trigunayat, former diplomat, and Manas Pratim Bhuiya, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsdtalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 9289 094 044.